You're tuned to Evergreen Media Network. I am Cindy Schwartz, and this is the Patient Partner Show. It's also a podcast on Spreaker, so look us up on that. We're on many, many, many different platforms on Spreaker. Jeannie Roller is my co-host. Jeannie Roller is in Indiana. I am in Florida, and we talk about the healthcare issues that we have come across, sadly, and also have interviewed many people. A lot of people will not come on the podcast because they are embarrassed. They cannot believe they're in PTSD, all kinds of trauma, anxiety, whatever. Jeannie, it is so sad. That's how we met each other, because it had happened to each of us, happened to our family members, which is what we're going to talk about today. And this was a way that we found that we could cope with it, because we just could not rationalize that this is what the healthcare system had seemingly become. And we did a podcast not long ago where I talked about a cardiac office that I am going to right now, a new cardiologist, and the care there is just extraordinary. And I am just stymied that if that care can happen, the professionalism that I saw in that office, the HIPAA compliance, on and on and on, and seemingly for a lot of the patients are people that do not have a lot of money, just regular Americans getting phenomenal care, in my opinion, from what I saw. Why can't everyone do that? I mean, this office has been in business for years and years and years. There's 5 or 6 cardiologists in the office. And they're doing it. They're making it happen. They're giving patients good care, professionalism. They're courteous. The dignity is intact. I mean, you write your last name on the label, and that's it. They take it away as soon as you write your name down. I mean, all this stuff should be happening in every office. And Jeannie, now you have a story of a family member of yours that is not happening. Here we go again, once again.
Well, Cindy, my mother is 92, and she went to see her cardiologist, as she does each year. And each year they have different MAs for some reason. But anyhow, this particular MA, she was sitting there and she was coughing all over the place. And then she started coughing into her hand, which I'm like, ooh, that's like hygiene 101. You should not cough into your hand.
Yeah, I think we stopped that like in 1985, coughing on your hand or something. I mean, everybody, but I'm just being facetious. Go ahead.
But then she was ready for my mother to have her EKG. And my mother is 95. She gets cold because she doesn't move, so she gets cold easily. So this MA told her to undress from the waist up. And my mother looked kind of surprised, and I said, no, that's not happening.
Yeah.
And I said, do you not realize that it is not necessary for anyone to undress totally from the waist up for an EKG? That even for a man, they do not have to remove their shirts for you to do the EKG. And so my mother started unbuttoning her shirt, and she had a little cami underneath of it. And she said, well, what about this? And I said, you can merely raise that up. And the MA said, well, I have to get to your shoulders. And I said, you can get to her shoulders. Just move aside her shirt up there. And you could tell this MA was steamed. I mean, she was mad because I had dared to say something different than what she had ordered. But I mean, it is so true. You don't have to get undressed totally from the waist up for an EKG. So we went on, and the doctor, he came in, and first thing he said was, well, this MA, she has asthma attacks, and that's why she was coughing, because we didn't know why she was coughing. And I said, well, that may be, but I said, for one thing, she should have explained herself that no, she's not contagious. And I said, for another thing, she should not be coughing into her hand, because I said that is a germ spreading thing. So I said she should know. But I went ahead of myself. I first asked him if she was an RN or an MA, and he said an MA. And then I was talking to him, and I asked him, I said, have you ever heard of medical patient modesty? I said, it's a organization that is not only for patients, but for healthcare providers to learn how to treat patients with dignity, and that patients should know how to be treated with dignity. And he said, no. And I said, well, you're MA. And I explained to him what she did. And I said, You and I both know it's totally unnecessary for a person to undress from the waist up for an EKG. And he said he agreed. And I said, well, can you speak to her? Is there some training? And he said, and Cindy, this goes into what we had talked about previously about big box hospitals, about them being corporations.
Yeah.
He said, no, I really can't talk to her because she is not really my employee, but she is an employee of the practice. I said, yes, and the practice is owned by this certain hospital system. And he said, yes, you would need to speak to this hospital system in order to say that. And he said, and besides, even if I said anything, it wouldn't make any difference. It needs to come from outside.
Yeah.
And then he went on to say that he's probably in his late 50s, early 60s. And we were talking, and he was saying, well, he gets 3 days off a month.
Yeah.
Usually on a Sunday, because he said there is a doctor's shortage just about everywhere in the U.S.
Yeah.
And he said, so if he's lucky, he gets 3 days off.
Yeah.
He not only works in the practice seeing patients, but he works in the hospital as a hospitalist. And then he is on call for heart-related emergencies, such as he can do interventional procedures. So he's lucky if he gets 3 days off. And I'm
crazy.
Sitting there thinking it's crazy. And I was thinking, it's no wonder there are so many mistakes made because these doctors are overworked.
Yep.
And seriously, they're probably not paid as well as they would be if they were allowed to be private practice. You could see that he's a very nice guy, that he basically felt he had no control over the medical things that happen in the office. And I was thinking, that is so sad.
It is because how many times have we said that these people have gotten into, for the most part, gosh, I would say, for the right reasons. But you can't always have your own practice. You can't, we know all the logistics of that, or we can think what they are. And you got to work for some of these systems, and that's not care. That isn't care.
No.
I mean, you can liken it also to if you went to the hardware store, and how many times have we ever said that? Now we have big box hardware stores. Is the customer service the same as what it used to be when, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so owned the hardware store in so-and-so town? No, I think we can mostly agree that that's not true. Some of the big box, maybe grocery stores do have good customer service, but I mean, you'd have to say that the medical industry should always have good customer service and good care. And look, this is what we're putting up with. This is what we're putting up with.
Sure.
But we did do a podcast saying about a lot of people now are shying away from these. And I've done my research here where I am in South Florida, and I seek out these other ones where it is maybe a conglomerate of doctors. I know there's an ortho center here where there's probably 20, 25 doctors in there. It's gangbusters. The care is phenomenal. This cardiac unit, 5, 6, 8 cardiologists in there, gangbuster healthcare. Unbelievable. So I'm glad that that's making money, that people are going to that. And the doctors don't seem to be as frantic and under the thumb as what this other stuff is in the big box systems. So I'm sad for your mom. That's terrible. I'm sad for your mom that at 95 years old you still can't get good care. And why would a person argue? You know what I mean? For the way that the stuff should be done. The medical assistant, they're not really hardly even trained.
Yeah. Seriously, Cindy, it would take less than a half of a second for her just to move aside, an unbuttoned shirt to. Well,
they don't get the context of it. Yeah, right. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But they don't get the context because and we only got a couple of seconds left because their education is so stunted. This is all my opinion. So stunted. So, you don't really know why you're doing this stuff. It's just do it this way. Go down this street. It's like a Google map, and that's the only way. You can't veer from the Google map, if you will. And I'm not trying to beat up on Google, but I mean, that's the context of it. The context is they don't have the context. On that note, what do we do as patients? So, good for you for speaking up. Stay tuned to Evergreen Media Network.